So, Michelle, we have the AUMF, the authorization plan, coming at the same time that all the numbers seem to be higher than ever before of what the enemy represents. Is that a coincidence? Let's talk more about this with Senator Tim Kaine. He's a Democrat from Virginia and the former Virginia governor as well. Senator, thank you for joining us. The skepticism in my tone is not an accident. These numbers, 20,000, 90 countries, all these different things, how does the United States know? You have nobody in the ground. In the places where these guys are fighting right now. That was a conscious decision. Where do these big numbers come from all of a sudden? Do you trust them?
Well, I trust the range, Chris. I think we all have to acknowledge that when we departed from Iraq in 2011, we lost some intelligence capacity, and the situation in Syria is also very, very murky. So these are estimates, but ISIS wouldn't be able to move and take so much territory if they didn't have significant personnel. And as I've traveled to capitals in the region, especially in North Africa and the Middle East, they've talked about this foreign fighter issue. They're seeing young people flee to go join the fight in ISIS, often crossing the Turkish border. So the numbers are significant, and that's why the U.S. needs to take action. But we got to do it the right way, and that means a congressional debate and vote on this military mission.
Right, but we got to be careful because you have intelligence on the ground, and then you just have general intelligence about how you go about this. And a big reason that the American people are war weary is because the last time you went running into a situation on information wound up being bad information. So now you have this authorization for the use of force, and you're saying there's 20,000, but there may be 6. Do you think that matters? What do you think happens when the plan gets put to Congress? You think they'll just stamp it right away and say, go ahead?
Chris, I don't think Congress is in danger of just stamping it right away. I think what we're going to do, I'm on the Foreign Relations Committee. This will get referred to the Foreign Relations Committees in both houses. And we're going to have some real vigorous debate about this. There are pieces of this proposed authorization that match very closely a proposal that I introduced in September, a sunset of 3 years to require periodic review of the success of the mission. Some limitations on, for example, a repeal of the earlier Iraq authorization from 2002, which is important. One of the things that I'm really going to dig into is the ground troop language. The president's been pretty clear that we're going to have no ground troops, but this language in the proposed authorization looks to be a little bit more open than that.
Tell us about that. So what don't you like about it, Senator?
Well, we don't have the final language yet, but there's a suggestion that there's sort of a vague phrase that no combat troops for offensive enduring offensive ground operations, and that term is likely not defined. Clearly, we need to give that some definition and clarification, and that's what the Foreign Relations Committee process will be about. So you'll see a debate about a lot of things. Another issue, Chris, that's going to be important is how meaningful is the coalition? Are the other nations, especially nations in the region, are they really stepping up to battle the terrorist threat that is their own threat?
Yes.
Or are they relying on us to do it all? That's going to be a significant point of discussion.
I think that is a huge point, because everybody who knows anything about this situation says the reason they're able to recruit is not what's happening on the battlefield or what happens about annexation of land. That doesn't seem to be a real threat at this point. It's the idea. And that idea is born in countries largely outside the United States by a region of the world that's been very slow to deal with the social and economic conditions that give birth to this. Now what we just saw with Jordan, what about that effort, Senator, of going to that region and saying, this is on you, ladies and gentlemen, these are your people?
Well, Chris, I'm glad you brought up Jordan. King Abdullah was here last week, and sadly he was here on the very day when the video came out about the burning of the Jordanian pilot. And he was very courageous. He said this. He said to American senators, this is not your fight, it's our fight, because it's terrorism in our region, and even though these people are anti-Islam, they're claiming the mantle of our religion, and it's up to us to stand up against it. If we do, we would love your help, and we need your help, but you can't take this fight to this terrorist ideology that was birthed in our region on your own. You have to demand of nations in the region that we carry this burden. Jordan is doing the job, but other nations in the region, while they say they're anti-ISIL, their actions haven't really matched their words, and that's something that we need to get into.
And that may have to become a bigger part of the strategy, some would argue. I mean, if you just look at even these numbers, such as they are, you got 300 million people in the U.S., you got 150 foreign fighters. Jordan, well, a good actor now, right now, 6.5 million people, maybe 2,000. foreign fighters. This is not a United States-bred problem. That is clear. Well, Senator Tim Kaine, we know it's early in this situation. We're going to be following the debate very carefully, and we look forward to what you have to say about it going forward. Thank you, sir.
Great. Thank you, Chris. You bet.
Allison.